Can you talk a little bit about that? What does it mean to love God with all your heart and your mind, and to kind of equip people to speak about their faith and how to defend what they believe in a rational way, not just, oh, I feel it's true, but there's, evidential claims to what we believe.
Yeah, the one thing I do when I get to travel is I often ask Christians, why are you a Christian? Mm-hmm. And I just started doing that originally just to see, where we kind of get the temperature, the pulse of the church in general. And I get to travel a lot. So I was all over the country speaking to different parts of the country in the larger body of the church. And what I discovered pretty quickly is that the most popular answers are answers that really aren't that good. The most popular answers are, number one, and by a big measure, is I was raised in the church. That is the most popular. It's probably 60 or 70% of the time I ask that question. That's the answer I get. And so they've embraced the belief systems of their parents, which I think is fine. And it actually is the most popular. The surest way to know what someone believes, or to predict what someone will believe, is to ask the question, what did their parents believe? And every worldview, whether it's a theistic worldview or whether it's a non-theistic worldview that has nothing to do with God, people end up embracing in large measure what they were raised to embrace in their environment. This is why certain groups are growing more quickly than others, if in fact they are growing biologically. So if your group is having more kids than the other groups, there's a good chance there'll be more people who think like you on the planet in one generation. And this is what we see happening across that. For example, Islam is growing as a worldview, largely because Islam is growing biologically at a much faster pace than, say, Christianity, especially here in the West. So I think that's part of it, right? So I saw that answer was very popular. I also saw the answer was popular. Hey, I've had an experience that has confirmed for me that Christianity is true. I prayed for something. I saw a miracle. I felt God's presence. Some experience that confirmed for the person who you're talking to that Christianity is true. Now, those are fine ways to determine if something is true or to embrace something as true. But I want you to think about it for a second. I have a family. Almost everyone's an atheist, except for I've got a stepmother, and my six brothers, half brothers and half sisters, are all raised Mormon. They're all LDS. They were all raised that way. And if you ask my LDS family why they are Mormons, they're going to tell you largely that because they were raised that way, and they've had an experience that confirmed that Joseph Smith's a prophet of God and the Book of Mormon is true. In other words, everyone believes that what they believe is true, primarily on the basis of the fact they were raised that way, and they've had some sort of experience. Now, you know that you would say, well, those views aren't true, and every group is doing that, right? So clearly, if the only way you're going to determine something is true is by having been raised that way or having some experience, that's not going to be sufficient to protect you from error, because all these folks who believe things that are contradictory to each other, we don't agree with them, they don't agree with us, and this is true for all of us. We all got there the same way. Well, I bet you there's probably a better way to get there. I bet you we could probably ask the question, could your worldview be falsified or verified with evidence? In other words, could we know or know that it's not true on the basis of evidence? And it turns out that the Christian worldview is uniquely qualified to be tested in that way, because our worldview, unlike, say, Buddhism is a series of proverbial proclamations from Buddha. So you could accept these or not accept these. Largely, this is also true, say, for Baha'i or about the writings of Baha'u'llah, that these are proverbial statements from a prophet. This is not what Christianity is. Yeah, Jesus said some amazing things, but it's grounded in an event that occurred in history called the resurrection. That can actually be measured and evaluated to see if it actually occurred. Because if it didn't occur, Paul says we've been lied to, and this entire thing is a house of cards that will fall. So I think that we could actually test Christianity in a way that other theistic worldviews can't be tested. And that gives me great confidence to know, well, hey, you know what? Then we should be able to share that. When you ask me why am I a Christian, I could actually give you an evidential reason for why I'm a Christian. And we ought to, because we're the one group that is grounded in an historical event called the resurrection that we could explain and measure and test. So I think that's the difference between our worldview and others. But what's sad is that even though we possess that unique feature, very few of us even think about that, or take an approach in sharing what we believe that is based on that, or raise our kids in a way that reflects the fact that this is an evidential view we could assess.